They may come back, as you suggested, playing right-wing politics with this, with the local prosecutor, maybe even with the federal people. But if we have a change in January.
You mentioned just now that multiple cases have happened like this that are similar. What do you think about this case in particular being called race politics?
About this case in particular, what?
You just got done telling me about all these cases involving black people and white people. When a person asks him about the race factor, it kind of gets dodged a little bit.
These cases building up in a climate of an administration in Washington that we cannot feel will objectively investigate. There was a time.
I'm pretty sure everybody knows who's in this picture, but the man they have positioned in the middle. Then you have this meeting behind the scenes. So I watched that last press conference with Ben Crump and Al Sharpton. I watched it again. It's the third time because there is a lot of inconsistencies even during the press conference when they're asking questions. And I'm going to point it out to you. And not only that, there is a lot of things after digging into who was standing with them and everything they practice. There is a lot of things that point to Nolan Wells' death could be being used against people to form a political vote, statement, stance, or whatever you want to call it. There's an agenda that's being pushed out and it's slowly being rolled out. I'm going to point all this out to you. Stay tuned, Fugitive TV. Welcome to Fugitive TV. I am your host, Ray Marcel. And what we do here is we take a look at cases of missing individuals, anything that's true crime. And what we do is we give it a deeper look. We actually do research. And what I try and do sometimes is give you a different perspective. Now, the reason why I can give you a different perspective is I was once a fugitive on the run from the law myself. After I committed some white collar crime, I moved to different countries, lived under different names for 15 years, then eventually turned myself in. Now I'm a motivational speaker. I have this YouTube channel. I help family members locate missing individuals and even help them locate fugitives that need to be brought to justice. And speaking of fugitives, we need to locate this guy right here, John G. Brown. He is wanted out of San Antonio, Texas. And not only is he wanted, he's wanted for pretty much deleting his own wife and mother of his kids. He is believed to be seen in Virginia, DMV, the Maryland area. So if you see this guy, he could be considered armed dangerous. Please call Crime Stoppers. Even if you don't feel safe and don't want to call Crime Stoppers, but you want to report him, go ahead. You can report anonymously without leaving your email right down below, all right, in the description. Well, we're going to continue with the Nolan Wells investigation, the case of what's going on. So every day I get emails and I get tips about Nolan Wells. There's a lot of people actually that have been reaching out to me from Ocean Springs, Biloxi, that whole area. So thank you guys for reaching out to me. Thank you for trusting me with your information. I really appreciate that. I just want to say thanks. And not only that, thank you to the new people who have been signing up for my membership. Thank you. It helps this channel's growth and it helps me be able to do this, start doing it full time for you guys, where I can pump out 2, 3, 4 videos a day. So thank you so much. Well, I've been looking at the press conference. Now, I watched it a couple times, but I actually had time today to put on headphones and actually listen to it and watch it at the same time and really dissect what was going on and what was being said. Now, there's a bunch of things being said that I didn't even pick up on. Now, I knew that they were pushing a political agenda because of one phrase that he said with Democratic voting. So I from right there, I was like, hold on, but I didn't realize how deep the political agenda and the reason why they're pushing this. Now, as far as everybody knows, if you don't know, okay, Nolan Wells, the young man who tragically lost his life outside of Biloxi, Mississippi, going to Horn Island on 4th of July with a bunch of his friends. His friends came back. He didn't. Nobody knows what happened to him. There's a possibility that he could have drowned. Some people are saying somebody did this to him, but we don't know. There's no proof of there's foul play right now. There's no proof. Well, there could be proof, but we just don't know. They're not talking. There's an autopsy that has been done, but they haven't released results because they are going to take everything that they have to a grand jury. Now, when they take everything to a grand jury, then a grand jury is going to decide, should we press charges? But the one piece of evidence that the grand jury does not have in the whole thing is Nolan Wells' phone. Nolan Wells' phone was brought into the spotlight by Nolan Wells' mom. When she got the phone, okay, she accused somebody or people of deleting Snapchat messages. Now, she first came out and said it was Snapchat messages. He had 2 accounts. Now, there's no proof of this that we know of. She's just going based off of Nolan Wells always had his phone in his hand and was always doing snaps, which I get it. But here's the issue. 4th of July, you're on Horn Island. This island's 10 miles away from the coast. They are on boats. Horn Island doesn't have docks, so which means these boats have to anchor out in the water. So you're jumping in the water that is up to your chest and neck, swimming, playing in the water, whatever you're doing, then walking to an island. Now, some people are saying the island does have reception. Some people are saying that reception is spotty. I'm pretty sure it depends on your cell phone service provider. We have an island out here right outside of Florida where I'm at called Beer Can Island. The reason why it's called Beer Can Island, I mean, what do you think? People go out there and drink and that's all they do. But nobody's really on their cell phone, okay? They're on jet skis and everything else. You lose your phone in the ocean. You might not find it forever. Not only that, it's salt water in the ocean, which is going to corrode your phone. Now your phone's done as toast. So you leave your phone on a boat, you leave it in a dry bag, and that's what you do. You go out in the water and you have fun. I don't see nobody on the beach swimming in the water, boogie boarding, or on a jet ski with their phone in her hand. It doesn't work that way. You keep it somewhere else. So she was saying that there was no Snapchats on the phone and they possibly have been deleted. Well, the issue with that is, like I said, cell phone service could be spotty. Now, if you have Verizon or AT&T, maybe it's better. But if you have something like Boost Mobile, probably not, okay? Sprint, probably not, even worse, if Sprint's even still around. But if he even had Snapchats, for people who don't know how Snapchat works. Now, she said she checked his Snapchat account within 24 hours of him possibly doing snaps. Now, the issue with that is if somebody sent him a snap and he opened the snap up, it would have been deleted. It would have been deleted. That's the way Snapchat works. As soon as you open up a snap, it deletes. If you send somebody a snap and then they open it up, it deletes. The only way it holds that snap for 24 hours is if you have the setting for 24 hours, okay? Or the person you're sending a snap to, or the person sending you a snap, you don't open it within 24 hours. So you have little different settings in the Snapchat. The problem is she never said what the setting was, if she even knows. We don't know. Once again, there's no proof that he was even snapping the phone. Now, the reason why I should say, not just she, but they are talking about the cell phone is because the cell phone was left on the boat with the boys. The boys had the phone. You guys should know the story. They brought the phone back to the house. They told Christine where the phone was at. Now, Christine at first doing all these press conferences didn't even tell us this, but then she just came out just recently and said, yeah, Warren did tell me he had the cell phone and the keys, but they weren't saying that at first. Okay. There's been a lot of, all right, recorrecting what has been said, a lot of that, which I actually find kind of funny side-eyed, especially in the true crime scene. For anybody who's watching this that's really into true crime, you know what we do. We look at facts. We look at inconsistencies of stories, if somebody has been lying or not. These are the things we look at. When somebody shows us an article, I will research to see if I can find, or a picture, where that original picture came from, because I want to make sure it's not doctored or AI. A lot of people are doing this right now, especially with this case, and this is why we're getting a lot of BS. Now, I do realize some of the BS is calming down, but there's still some stuff out there.
Luca with NPR. Has the DA said anything to your attorneys regarding the joint investigation of the cell phone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, please?
Oh, sorry. Has the DA said anything, given any guidance on the joint investigation of the cell phone?
we are in constant communication, and just like anything, like to address the gentleman sitting next to you. What was your name again?
Greg.
Oh, Greg.
Yeah. You get 2 shots. Yeah.
This is Greg Dunmore.
Okay. Just to address Greg's question, you know, the truth has to be proven and shown with the methodology, the way they came about. Someone just can't come out and say, hey, you know, I have a Ferrari, and then you believe they have a Ferrari. I don't have a Ferrari. The truth has to be shown. You got to bring them to your garage, show them the title. That's the truth. And yes, we will accept the truth. So the same way with what the young lady sitting next to you is saying, which is we have procedures that the courts require that we as lawyers ethically have to follow in order to turn over evidence.
So right before we get into the political agenda, all right, I'm going to read to you this about the phone. Now, the phone, far as today that we know of, has not been turned over to investigators, forensics, and has been past 30 days. Now, I'm going to mention to you guys after this why this is really bad for the Nolan Wells case, Nolan Wells family, and you're going to get why this is really bad, all right? Now, I understand why they have not turned the phone over, so I can't sit here and say I don't understand. I understand to a degree, all right? Let's get that point, to a degree, as in they don't have trust for the authorities, law. They don't have trust for them. So they don't want to just hand over the evidence because they're scared if we hand over the evidence, you guys might not do the proper investigation. So if you have a fear of that, you should be able to understand that. But here is the issue. Okay, the issue is they've had this phone for 30 days. Now, I'm going to read to you what this is. Now, the agreement originally was DA and Ben Crump's team were supposed to look at the phone together. This says legal team for Nolan Wells family accuses DA of not operating in good faith. District Attorney Angel Myers Mackrith released a statement about the investigation into the death of Nolan Wells and timing release of the information. The legal team representing the family of Nolan Wells attacked the district attorney's office in South Mississippi on Friday, saying District Attorney Andrew Myers Mackrith is not operating in good faith in an investigation into the death of the beloved Ocean Springs team. In a letter sent to Mackrith on August 13th, the legal team said that Nolan's parents remain willing to facilitate a forensic examination of Nolan's phone, consistent with what the parties agreed with on July 15. So they agreed on July 15 after meeting they would get together and do a forensic evidence on the phone just to see if anything really was deleted. According to the legal team at the July 15th meeting, the parties agreed to jointly coordinate forensic examination of the phone using a digital forensics lab at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, with possible FBI involvement. According to the legal team's correspondent, no date or time for the examination was ever set. Instead, on August 12th at 11:51 p.m., the district attorney's office sent a letter directing the family to deliver the phone to her office by 9 a.m. on August 14th. Less than 48 hours later, Nolan's parents were outside of Mississippi when the letter was sent and were not scheduled to return before the deadline. Well, the reason why the parents are outside of Mississippi right now is because they are going on a national tour. Pretty much. They're going on a national tour. All right. Now, you might ask, why are they going on this national tour? We're going to get into all this on the political side once this is done with the phone. So you can see how all of this might be playing a role. All right. Like I said, might be. You can use your brain to try and figure that out if it is or if it's not. Nolan's family has not refused to cooperate and correspond with the district attorney's office. Is proof of that. The legal team said in a news release, we agreed on July 15th to examine this phone together with their experts or expertise and possibly with the FBI. Now, district attorney sent out a letter. Now, I tried to find the original letter. I don't know if she published it publicly. If you guys have a link or you know of the link where you can see that letter publicly, let me know. I tried. I looked for a few minutes. I didn't find it. But I'm still going to look. But I didn't find that letter. I'm interested. The reason why I want to see the letter, I want to see if it says more than just you have 48 hours to give up the phone. Because we know how people like to copy and edit things to make it seem like a certain perspective or narrative. So I want to see the whole letter. Now, the district attorney gave them 48 hours to turn in the phone. They made this agreement on July 15th. Today of this video is August 16th. So it's been over a month. And this phone still has not been looked at for any evidence of wrongdoing. Now, we're going to go right here. I'm going to read to you this a little bit. This is from the attorneys on the behalf of Nolan Wells' family. All right. Thank you for your correspondence dated August 12, 2026. As a Mississippi counsel for the Nolan Wells family, A.R. Smith Law will serve as a primary point of contact for the legal team so that communications with your office can be coordinated efficiently. We agreed that examination on his phone was discussed during the July 15th meeting. So they go on to say, you know, the agreement was made. Then it goes on to say after that, Mr. Hertz contacted you on July 25th while traveling abroad and indicated that he would reconnect upon his return. So hold on. So there's somebody that had to go out abroad and he wouldn't be back 10 days later to 25th and he would reconnect on his return. Interesting. Which your office should not be understood or suggest that our legal team had been unwilling to facilitate a forensic examination of the phone. To date, Nolan's parents remain willing to facilitate an appropriate forensic examination of Nolan's phone, including FBI involvement, according to our agreement on July 15th. The date and time you proposed provided less than 48 hours notice. Moreover, the Wansleys were outside of Mississippi. We know they've been on this national tour when your letter was sent and are not scheduled to return until after the deadline. See, here's the thing. This is the letter they sent. If you guys want, you can go look at the whole letter. All right. It's a 2-page letter. So the DA responds and sends out a letter, says, okay, well, let's do this or give us the phone in 48 hours. All right. The reason why they're doing this, some people are like, why? Because it's past 30 days. This could be evidence for an investigation if there is foul play. And the DA knows timing is everything. Not only that, guys, if it is Snapchat, some of these apps, they only keep a certain amount of data for up to 30 days. Some might be 90. It just all depends. Now, you can download evidence from your phone and it keeps a log of when it was turned on, turned off, and when some things have been deleted, it's all logged in your phone. Now, you can pull that out on a device depending on what device it is, all right? But here is the issue. Let's say, for example, the phone, after forensics, let's just say they do find out, hey, there was some stuff in here deleted. Oh my God, there's some stuff in here deleted. And now they're like, oh, she was, Christine was telling the truth this whole time. There is stuff in here deleted. Here is when it comes an issue. How long have they had the phone before it was turned in to authorities for it to get the cell phone data to be, exported? A defense attorney who was pretty good, all he has to do is come into court and say, well, when was Nolan Wells' death? July 5th. July 4th, July 5th, around that time. We still don't know the exact time. Okay, so when did Christine get the phone back? The same amount of time around his death, July 4th to July 5th. So when did we finally do a forensic evidence on the phone? August 16th? 30 some odd 40 days. Somebody had evidence holding on to it. How do we know that the evidence wasn't manipulated? How do we know that the data is correct? How do we know that my defendant, my client, is the one who did it? Because who had the phone technically last before law enforcement had it? It went from the friends to Christine's friend who picked it up, to Nolan Wells' family. You have multiple hands and transactions going here on a piece of evidence. So think about this, guys. Let's just think for a minute. Let's say it was a weapon and the weapon was a knife. Whatever it is, okay? Now, usually if the weapon's on the scene, what happens? Investigators will not touch the evidence, right? They will bag it up, fingerprint it, wearing gloves, and then put it in the evidence. That way it's not tampered with. Now, let's say somebody picked up the weapon before law enforcement got there, and then that weapon was transferred through two different hands. Somebody even tried to wipe off the fingerprints. A defense attorney is going to have a really good field day on that one, because all they got to say is, who had the weapon last? He did? Who had it before him? He had the weapon too? So how can you pinpoint my defendant, okay? How can you say my defendant was the one holding the weapon to do anything when these two people even had it last? Their fingerprints are on the weapon too. You get where I'm kind of going? There's an argument for the defense now for his attorney. So I can see why the DA is like, hey, we need to hurry up and do this because we're wasting time. Not only are we wasting time on that side, we're wasting time to figure out the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells. Guys, this is what really upsets me right here. And I'm going to say it right here on the channel, Ray Marcel, all right? I know what it's like to lose a child. I've lost my son. I know exactly what it's like. You want answers then and there and now. I was not going to go anywhere until I figure out some answers of exactly what happened. I cannot understand why these people are going on a world tour right now when they want answers and all the answers are back home in Mississippi. That part I don't get. And do you have the phone with you, going with you on tour? Why not leave it with legal counsel, okay, in Mississippi? As far as I know, when evidence such as a cell phone gets, when they're trying to extract everything out of it, there's only a certain amount of people allowed in the room. They're not going to have, usually, let's say Christine and her husband in there, why they do the cell phone with law enforcement. The reason why is because if evidence does arise from the phone, everybody in the room is going to know evidence arose. What if evidence arose from the phone involving Christine or her friend or Javon, whatever? They're sitting right there. So you get what I'm saying? So I get why the DA is doing it. Like I said, I get why the family might be hesitant to turn the phone, but you could do plenty of stuff. And I brought this up. You raised almost $1 million in your GoFundMe. You have enough money to get your own forensic team resources, which they actually said in a press conference, and do your own extraction and then submit that evidence if there is evidence of something foul play. And you have enough money to even get the better people than at the community college in Mississippi. So I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about that one.
So just to clarify, what the agreement was that the DA's office, and this is the Jackson County DA's office, as well as our forensic team, and possibly the FBI, were going to together download and examine the phone. So it's done one time with everybody together, right? This is very common in the law. I mean, what you all may be more used to is when there's a terrible car accident and then there's an examination of that car and everybody comes together one time. They don't move that car around and everybody does their own thing. This is what is supposed to happen. We are waiting for the DA to determine the time, the place, the date. Let us know, and we are going to be there with our forensics team and anybody else, but it's done one time, one examination. We're ready for it to happen.
And then the female attorney, she starts talking about one place one time you're going to get a chance to deal with this phone. And then she brings up the whole example of a car crash. They go out there one time, examine a car crash, and that's it. That is false. That is false. There are so many cases out there to where the car crash was examined more than once, okay? Mackenzie Shirilla is one prime example. All you gotta do is go look at the Netflix documentary. People are still trying to examine a car crash. So that right there was false. Now, during the press conference, all right, there was a couple things I've noticed. A lot of people are talking about, is this case about race? Is it not about race? Is it about black? Is it about white? What is this case about? Because you have a lot of hate going on the internet. The real racists have came out during this case. I have seen comments. All right. Even the real ignorant or naive, they're even coming out the bushes. I'm seeing it in real time. Now, the one thing I have an opinion on, or I don't agree with, is how these press conferences are being run. Because there's a lot of contradictions that's happening in the press conference. Is it about race or is it not about race? For example, they'll go on the press conference and one of the first things they do is they start talking about the past of racial segregation, racial cases, and things like that, which we all know there's a history in the South of racial discrimination. Nobody can say there has not been. We all know there is, all right? But you come into the press conference bringing that up, the first thing you bring up, the very first thing, and you start talking about Dr. Martin Luther King, your rights, and I'm wondering where the rights is talking about. We're going to get into that, all right? So I'm like, what does the rights have to be with Nolan Wells? I don't get that. But you know what? I get it now. I get what they're doing.
That we have been dealing with now for the last several weeks around Nolan Wells is indicative of many cases around the country that have raised serious questions with racial overtones. Attorney Crump and I are going tomorrow, where I'm doing the eulogy for a young black man in Madison, Wisconsin, homeless, and they say had a knife, and there's the tape of him being shot. 3 cops surrounding him, shot 4 shots. And these cases building up in a climate of an administration in Washington that we cannot feel will objectively investigate. There was a time.
I was just saying to my staff on the way in, it's like this brings back so many vivid memories for me and my own family, having lost Jordan to unnecessary gun violence in November 2012, Black Friday, simply because he was black and playing loud music in his car.
Black press, NABJ, we need you now more than ever to keep everybody focused. What happened to this 18-year-old black teenager in Mississippi? Because there have been questions when you look at the history of the Deep South where young black people are unalive and nobody ever gets any answers.
But then people will ask them, hey, is it about race? And they kind of dodged the question a little bit. Look at this.
NABJ News. You mentioned just now that multiple cases have happened like this that are similar. What do you think about this case in particular being called race politics?
About this case in particular, what?
Being considered race politics.
I think that the race politics of this case has been the reaction. I think that we're not predetermining that the case was racial. We're determining that the answer, the investigation, has been racially divided, and that's what made it racist.
You just got done telling me about all these cases involving black people and white people. The congresswoman, her name is Lucy, she went up there and started talking about her son, rest his soul, and start saying that he lost his life because he was black and had his music up high. Now, I remember her case because her case happened right here in Florida with his son. Her son happened in 2012. I believe they're at a gas station or stoplight. I can't remember all of it, but he was bumping his music, and then somebody got out the car and say, hey, your music's too loud, and Escalade happened, and the guy shot him. But that's what happened with her case. Just a brief, quick description if you don't know. Now she's a congresswoman. She met Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Al Sharpton did the same thing with her. Took her on a media run, a media tour. Now look at her. Now she's in politics. Now there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. But what I'm saying is sometimes you have to look out for that carpet they might pull up under your feet. All right? So keep all this in mind while I'm mentioning this press conference. When a person asks him about the race factor, it kind of gets dodged a little bit. It's not a yes or no. Some people don't even understand what he just said. All right? Now, in the very beginning of the press conference, very beginning, what gets brought up? Voting, midterms, Democratic. The very first thing said in the press conference. Before the press conference, they had a sit down with the NABJ, National African Black Journalists. Al Sharpton, when he starts talking, he talks about Nolan Wells and then goes into the same thing, voting. Our rights could be taken away. Democratic. Some people might not realize this. They're like, okay, but what he's doing is he's using what has happened in this tragic situation and attaching it to a political narrative or propaganda to get some people to be like, oh, I'm going to go do this over here because this can help solve Nolan Wells' case or future cases. In reality, this has nothing to do with any future cases, guys. Well, just look at this. This is on Reverend Al Sharpton's page on his X account. It says, first of all, I'm pretty sure everybody knows who's in this picture, but the man they have positioned in the middle. You have Al Sharpton, Ben Crump, Nolan Wells' parents, and you have the guy in the middle. The only man not even looking at the right camera. Actually, looks like Al Sharpton's not even looking at the right camera. But let's read what Al Sharpton says. He says, before today's NABJ, I joined leader Hakeem Jeffries, attorney Ben Crump, and Christine and Elmore Wansley, the parents of the Nolan Wells, for an important conversation about the ongoing fight for justice and accountability. We must continue to stand with families seeking answers and ensure their voices are heard. All right, fine and dandy, okay? Then you have this meeting behind the scenes. And you might be like, okay, Hakeem Jeffries is there maybe to help the family. He's in Congress. These pictures are not AI. These pictures are actually real. Okay? Now, let's go back to what Al Sharpton said about voting and your rights.
But I got your history in Mississippi. And the history tells me black boy go out with 3 white kids come back. There's a blurred story on what happened. Now y'all all hostile and all upset. Didn't have the keys, but then you had the keys. Some about this don't make sense given your history. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to stay on this until we find out what happened. It may be nothing, but we're not going to leave that up to chance with people that are distorted. We going to stay on this case. Mm-hmm. And lastly, since they want to talk about lawsuits, one of the things tying your morning together, Tiffany, they may come back, as you suggested, playing right-wing politics with this, with the local prosecutor, maybe even with the federal people. But if we have a change in January, and there is a Democratic House. I said that if Hakeem becomes the Speaker, he needs to have the chair of judiciary subpoena them to the Judiciary Department, testify. No, that's what this vote means. We need to have a check and balance of government so that we got somewhere to go. We can't depend to go to Trump's Justice Department. So we need to really mobilize so people like these two parents can protect their children.
Yeah. Midterms, Democratic, January. Why is January so important? It's the midterms. But for people who don't know politics, now I'm not going to get deep into the politics side of it. Okay, I do follow it. I follow it, but I'm not going to get deep into it because this channel is not about that. This channel is about true crime. But he's making it political with this case. Now, watch this. So why would Al Sharpton be with Christine Wansley, Ben Crump, and Hakeem Jeffries? All you got to do is go to Al Sharpton's X and you'll see it's all political. It's all about getting votes for the Democratic Party for midterms. Look, here's the meeting video right here about for them. It's all about that. Look at this. Democrats battle with a brand problem. This is what it's all about and why he's with Hakeem Jeffries.
Wisconsin. Who I think are right on many of the arguments must expand their base beyond those that are in the liberal to progressive white community. If you look at Crowley's win and you look at the fact that Hung did not do well in black areas particularly.
So all you got to do is go on his page and then you look. And Hakeem Jeffries is actually a candidate in the general election for New York's 8th Congressional District. Now, why is all this important, you say? Like, what does this have to do with anything? Of course they want to vote. Well, here's a thing that's on the table right now. I don't know if you guys know about this, but there is an act called Save America Act. Now, this act was brought up from the Republican side, and this act, just to give you some quick, I can't even talk right now. Can't even talk, guys. But just to give you a quick synopsis of what's going on with this, all right? This is what the Save America Act is about. Pretty much it's about voting. Citizenship is already a requirement to vote. An instance of non-citizen votings are rare. 2, many eligible citizens don't have access to documentary proof of citizenship, all right? So these are pretty much saying things to know. Pretty much what the act is saying is we want everybody to be a citizen, and we want everybody to have an ID. They want to make sure you can ID you before you vote. Now, I don't know if you guys agree with that. Some people might not agree with that, but this is what the act is really about. We just want you to be an American citizen, have some sort of ID so you can vote, so your vote can count.
Around Nolan Wells, and is indicative of many cases around the country that have raised serious questions with racial overtones. These cases building up in a climate of an administration in Washington that we cannot feel will objectively investigate. There was a time that we could say if state authorities fail us, we can go to the Justice Department. Even under George Bush, we went to the Justice Department. We, at this point, have to hope that one, we could deal with civil courts, or secondly, that there's a balance of power with the Democrats taking the House in November, and maybe the Judiciary Committee under that can at least put a check and balance on cases that need to be investigated. But
now, Al Sharpton and his organization, the National Action Network, which is one of the networks that think about it. This is one of the networks that the Wansleys and Ben Crump used during one of their first press conferences. They used the National Action Network. Opposed the Republican-backed Safeguarding America Voter Eligibility, which is SAVE Act, frequently criticizing it as a voter suppressing tactic designed to disenfranchise minority and low-income voters. So this is Al Sharpton's stance. He is basically saying that if you pass this act, brown and black people and people of low income will not be able to vote. So do you guys see this kind of propaganda, this hidden agenda that's kind of being slowly pushed out? Because why else would he talk about your rights, voting, primaries, Democratic Party, slide that in there? And after all, we still don't know if Nolan Wells just accidentally drowned. I mean, after all this, this could be just a case of he drowned. He went out to use the bathroom in the water. He didn't want to be close to anybody, stepped a little too far and had a 30-foot drop off, got to a riptide or a current and drowned. It is very possible. Marley Kinney, she fell off or went to go use the bathroom out of, what was it, Kentucky? Marley Kinney, look up her case. I've been talking about it and sliding in there with this one. She was on a boat with 10, 11 people, her friends. She got off the boat to go use the bathroom, and that was the last time they saw her. Nobody noticed that she wasn't back on the boat. They drove off. There's another, Hakeem Liverpool out of Miami. Just recently happened not long ago, him as well. He was on a party boat in Miami with a bunch of friends. Last people know, he was on the back of the party boat dancing. Nobody saw him again until he washed up. Is it a case Ken could have just fell off the boat? Yeah, it's a very good case for that. Especially if you're drinking a party, could have just fell off the side. Is it a case somebody could have pushed him? Yeah, it's a case for that too. But the problem is we don't know. There's no evidence in any three of these cases of anything. So you have these agendas that get pushed, and because of these agendas that get pushed, you get things like this.
All you little gangbangers in these inner cities around the U.S., what y'all need to be doing is taking all that anger and the hatred and your bad attitudes and your 3 pounds and your 4 5s and poo shicey mash. Y'all need to be loading up them vans and y'all need to be going straight to Mississippi and handling them people who did Nolan Wells wrong. That's what y'all need to be doing. You need to take that recklessness and point it to Mississippi. That's what you need to do.
So now we have people putting out messages like this. Anybody with a brain or some common sense should know better than to do this, because now you're going to have people listening to this and maybe doing something. Come on, guys. What are we doing? What are we doing? And I think a lot of this stems from how the case is handled, how these press conferences are handled. You bring up the history of Mississippi, which is fine. To a point. You bring up this and you bring up that. Why don't you bring up some cases that's irrelevant to Nolan? Like Marley Kinney, very irrelevant. Same situation. Only difference is Marley Kinney, friends were white. Then you have Hakeem Liverpool, bring up his situation. But only difference is most of the people he was on a boat with, his friends, I think, were black. That's the only difference. But because Nolan Wells was partying with his white friends, which come to find out all of them weren't white, the narrative at first is the white friends did something. Now, like I said, we don't have evidence of this or that. Now, personally, the ones on the boat that he came with, personally, I don't think they've done anything. I don't think. But if they did, hey, we'll find out. Now, does somebody else on the island maybe do something? Yeah, it could have. I still have questions about Katie. I even have questions for Javon. As in, Javon's phone was left on the boat too. Why didn't they tell us this? I'm interested to see if they're going to come out with another press conference and let us know that. Why are they on this big press run? And on this press run, Democratic votes, our votes, all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it could be a case of Nolan just drowned accidentally. And you got people putting out messages like this. Like I said, we don't have proof of nothing right now. We really don't. So because we don't have proof of this or proof of that, you shouldn't push this or push that. It's okay to give your theory or what you think happened or what's your opinion, but it's all about how you word things. These people know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. It's just that, do you know how to listen to it? Please like and subscribe, all right? Turn on notifications. And if anything, it helps out a lot if you can join the membership and help my channel go full time. I can take this channel bigger to the dreams that I have of the channel. So thank you so much. Comment below if you agree with what I'm saying, or even if you don't agree, that is fine. You don't have to agree. But hey, even if you were entertained by this, thank you so much. So please love one another, like one another. Look out at your surroundings. Watch out for your surroundings. Until next time, this is Fugitive TV, and I'm out.